I discovered my girlfriend was seeing 4 other guys. I reached out to every one of them. For her birthday, we organized a surprise gathering. She entered to find all 5 of us lined up side by side. I presented her with a cake inscribed, "Happy birthday to our girlfriend." My girlfriend Jessica is a marvel of contemporary coordination. For the past year, I believed I was in a standard, devoted partnership with a lively, if somewhat disorganized, lady. I had no clue I was merely one segment of an elaborate, tiered romantic operation. Jessica wasn't simply my girlfriend. She was the head of a venture with 5 ongoing partners, and we were all her boyfriends. I uncovered this last Tuesday entirely by chance. Jessica is notoriously reckless with her phone. She left it in my vehicle when I dropped her at her yoga session. I spotted it on the passenger seat an hour later, and as the thoughtful boyfriend, I chose to return it so she wouldn't be without it. As I approached her yoga studio, the screen illuminated. An alert from a man named Derek Work with a heart symbol beside his name. The text said, "Thinking of you. Last night was incredible." My pulse halted. Last night, she had been with me. We had viewed a film and dozed off on the couch. Then another alert appeared. A man named Steve Jim. The note, "Looking forward to our trail walk this weekend. Wonderful. We were meant to visit my parents' place this weekend." It was as if a mechanism shifted in my mind. The bewilderment and pain were present, but they were swiftly eclipsed by a chilly, grim interest. My fingers trembling, I accessed her phone. She had unlocked it with her fingerprint in my car earlier, so it remained open. I didn't probe extensively. I didn't need to. The primary display of her messaging application was a control panel of deceit. There was Derek, her office spouse, whom she was obviously intimate with. There was Steve, her fitness coach, who provided more than just coaching. There was a remote guy named Paul, a former college interest to whom she was vowing to travel soon on a ladies' getaway. And then there was me, Ben, the dependable, consistent, cohabiting boyfriend, the foundation of the whole setup. I experienced a rush of sickness followed by a burst of raw, unrelenting fury. But then a third sensation surfaced, something much riskier, a profound, calculating concentration. She wasn't merely unfaithful. She was an expert timetabler, a skilled fraudster. A betrayal this intricate, this bold, didn't merit a basic, yelling showdown. It required a reply of matching intricacy and imagination. I drove home, her phone still in my grasp. I passed the next 5 hours in a mode of intense, focused exploration. I reviewed her texts, her planner, her online profiles. I was no longer her partner. I was an examiner, inspecting the records of a dishonest company. It was more severe than I imagined. There weren't just 4 other boyfriends. There were 5. The 5th was an affluent, older, separated man named Marcus, whom she had saved in her phone as mentor. He was the one financing the luxury purses and costly wellness days she insisted she covered with her independent visual design gigs. Each of us fulfilled a role. I was the solid base camp. Derek was the everyday excitement at the workplace. Steve was the health-focused activity companion. Paul was the sentimental distant dream. And Marcus was the financier. She had constructed an ideal network of men, each one meeting a distinct requirement, all of them totally oblivious to the other's presence. By night's end, I possessed a full file. I had their complete names, their images, their contact numbers, and a set of captured images of her notes to each, outlining her falsehoods and her timetable. My strategy started to take shape. A private clash would be useless. She was an expert deceiver. She would simply invent another falsehood. No, the sole method to adequately confront a fraud of this scale was to unite all the misled individuals. The sole way to reveal to her the reality of her actions was to have all 5 of her boyfriends in one space, simultaneously. Her birthday was in 3 weeks. She was already hinting about desiring a major surprise event. She had no inkling of the surprise I was beginning to arrange. I inhaled deeply, grabbed my phone, and dispatched the initial text to a stranger. "Hi Derek. I'm Ben. We aren't acquainted, but we share a girlfriend. Her name is Jessica. I have details I believe you'll need to view. We must converse." I forwarded the same note, tailored with the appropriate name, to Steve, Paul, and Marcus. The operation commenced. Update 1. Gathering what I dubbed the Jessica Defenders was a sensitive and bizarre procedure. The first responses to my text varied from furious skepticism to wary interest. Derek, the office spouse, was the most confrontational. He phoned me right away, charging me with being an insane, envious former trying to cause chaos. "I don't know you, buddy," he stated, "but you must retreat. Jessica and I are merely colleagues." "Are you?" I inquired serenely. "Because based on this note she sent you last Monday, she was expressing how she longed for you while reclining beside me. I'm glad to send you the capture. Or maybe you'd like the one where she's informing me she must stay late on a task with you, while at the same time texting you arrangements for an intimate meal." There was a shocked quiet. I commanded his focus. Steve, the fitness man, was simply bewildered. Paul, the distant dream, was devastated. But the most fascinating response came from Marcus, the older, prosperous supporter. He wasn't upset. He was fascinated. He was a retired executive, a person who had witnessed everything, and he appeared nearly admiring of the daring of her. I set up meetings with each individually over the following week. I encountered them in secluded pubs and cafes. I remained unemotional. I was a speaker, presenting my discoveries with the firm, solid evidence of captures and planner items. I displayed to each the deceptions she had told them, and the deceptions she had told regarding them. I revealed to Derek the notes where she labeled him her enjoyable, expendable diversion. I revealed to Steve the texts where she ridiculed his fixation with health. I revealed to Marcus the proof that she was utilizing the funds he provided to finance her journeys to meet her remote boyfriend, Paul. With each man, the response was identical. A gradual, emerging dread, followed by a chilly, silent anger. I had supplied them with irrefutable evidence that they were not a unique companion in a hidden romance. They were just a component in a system. By week's conclusion, I had them all committed. We established a private, protected group discussion. The five of us, a diverse group of deceived men, started to scheme. The early concepts were a blend of minor retribution and lavish actions. But we all concurred that the penalty had to match the offense. Her offense was trickery, separation, and causing us all to feel like we were the sole one. The only reasonable retribution then was to destroy that delusion in the most open and irrefutable manner possible. The surprise birthday event was the ideal setting. I, as the cohabiting boyfriend, led the organization. I informed Jessica that I would host a huge surprise gathering at our residence. I told her I aimed to make her birthday the most memorable day ever. She was thrilled. She adored the notion of me, her reliable, dull boyfriend, adoring her, and arranging a grand occasion in her tribute. We fixed the date and hour. I instructed her to be absent from the residence all afternoon so I could adorn and prepare everything. I instructed her to attire elegantly, that it would be a sophisticated matter. She purchased a new, pricey gown for the event, likely with Marcus's funds. The five of us synchronized the details. Derek handled obtaining a sign created. Steve, the fitness man, managed the beverages. Paul, the remote boyfriend, consented to travel to town for the occasion. And Marcus, with a sly grin, stated he would manage the cake. The strategy was straightforward. There would be no additional attendees, no acquaintances, no relatives. The only participants at Jessica's surprise gathering would be her 5 boyfriends. We would all assemble at my residence an hour prior to her scheduled arrival. We would prepare the area. And then we would await. She believed she was entering a celebration honoring her. She had no concept she was entering a concluding, open board meeting for the collapsed company of her romantic existence, and her position was about to end. Update 2. The day of the gathering was among the most unreal of my existence. The 4 other men arrived at my residence at 6 o'clock precisely. It was the initial occasion we had all occupied the same space. The environment was an odd combination of strain, friendship, and a mutual, somber determination. We were 5 unknowns from entirely varied backgrounds, linked by the falsehoods of one lady. Derek, the office spouse, unfurled the sign. It was a work of art of subtle hostility. It merely stated, in large, joyful letters, "Happy Birthday." No name, just a broad, detached proclamation. We suspended it over the living room window. Steve, the fitness man, filled the refrigerator with a notable quantity of beer and sparkling wine. "Might as well host a genuine gathering after the honoree departs," he remarked with a dry smile. Paul, the remote boyfriend, wore a tormented expression. The betrayal appeared to affect him the most profoundly. He simply silently assisted in positioning the furnishings. And then Marcus, the supporter, showed up. He was bearing a big, rectangular cake container from the priciest patisserie in the city. He set it on the kitchen surface with the care of a man managing a holy item. "The wording is precisely as we agreed," he noted, a spark in his gaze. We passed the following hour in light conversation. A collection of men who ought to have been competitors, now partners in a shared mission. We shared anecdotes, chuckled at the boldness of her deceptions, and uncovered the detailed network of timing she had employed to keep us separated. It resembled a therapy session for the casualties of a persuasive sect figure. At 7:45, I got a text from Jessica. "Just departed the wellness center, so thrilled for my surprise. Arriving in 15 minutes. Love you. So. I displayed the text to the others. A calm, resolute hush descended on the space. It was moment. We assumed our spots. We positioned ourselves in a relaxed half-circle in the center of the living room, facing the entrance. We simply stood there, 5 men, anticipating. At precisely 8 o'clock, we heard her key in the lock. The door opened wide. Jessica stepped in, a radiant, glowing grin on her face, prepared to be overwhelmed with attention. "Surprise!" she exclaimed into the residence. Her grin wavered the instant she spotted us. It didn't disappear right away. It just stiffened, her mind fighting to comprehend the view before her. She spotted me. Then she spotted Derek beside me. Her eyes expanded. She spotted Steve on my opposite side. Her complexion turned ashen. She spotted Paul near the window, and Marcus resting against the kitchen surface. The hue emptied from her face. Her luxury purse slid from her hand and dropped to the floor with a gentle thump. She appeared as if she had entered a space and discovered all of her hidden existences convening without her. "What? What is this?" she stuttered, her voice a rough murmur. "What are you all doing here?" No one uttered a sound. We simply stood there, a mute panel. I advanced. I was clutching the cake. With a steady, composed motion, I removed the cover from the container and rotated it so she could peruse the elegant, curling blue frosting. It read, "Happy birthday to our girlfriend." The hush was shattered by a tiny, stifled exhale from Jessica. She gazed at the cake, then at our expressions, her countenance collapsing from bewilderment into utter, raw terror. She attempted to deceive. It was a frantic, pitiful last effort. "I don't comprehend," she sobbed, tears forming in her eyes. "Ben, who are all these men? Why are they in our residence?" Derek was the initial to respond. "Stop, Jessica," he said, his tone icy. "Just stop. We know it all. I'm the office spouse." "I'm the fitness coach," Steve contributed, his limbs folded. "I'm the former college pal," Paul stated, his voice filled with a soft sorrow. "And I," Marcus finished, detaching from the surface, "am the advisor and the primary monetary supporter of this whole unseemly little venture, it seems." She gazed at me, her final expectation. "Ben, please," she murmured. "Tell me this is a prank." "The only prank here, Jessica," I said. My voice was all of us. "But it's not amusing anymore." I set the cake on the coffee surface. "The gathering's concluded," I said. "Happy birthday." Final update: the moment in the residence after the cake disclosure was a total and utter collapse. Jessica's mind appeared to malfunction. Confronted with the impossible actuality of all her distinct worlds crashing in one space, she lacked a logical approach, she merely rotated through every coercive method in her repertoire. Initially, she attempted rejection, claiming we were all deranged, that we were all elements of some complex hoax I was executing. When that failed, she attempted to divide and dominate, addressing each of us separately. She attempted to convince Derek that the others signified nothing. She attempted to convince Paul that he was the sole one she truly cherished. It was a lamentable display, and none of us were persuaded. We simply stood there, a mute, immovable barrier of fact. Ultimately, she shifted to fury. She yelled at me, labeling me a beast for arranging her degradation. She labeled the others idiots for trusting me. It was a frenzied, hopeless outburst from a trapped creature. When she eventually exhausted her energy, I spoke. "It's finished, Jessica," I said serenely. "This is my residence. The agreement is under my name. I want you gone. You can assemble a bag with your necessities tonight. You have 1 week to retrieve the remainder of your belongings." Then, individually, the other men issued their own rulings. "We're through," Derek said. "Never reach out to me again," Steve contributed. Paul merely shook his head and exited the door without a syllable. Marcus, the executive, was the most incisive. "Regard my guidance and all related monetary advantages permanently ended," he said. "I recommend you locate a new backer." Within 15 minutes, she had been rejected concurrently by 5 distinct men. She departed that night with a lone valise, her face a tear-marked wreckage. The 5 of us, the recently established fraternity of the deceived, actually lingered for a bit. We uncorked the sparkling wine, we sliced the cake. It was exquisite, and we hosted our own peculiar, very therapeutic gathering. We raised glasses to our mutual liberation. The consequences were precisely as anticipated. Jessica's world disintegrated. She had forfeited her residence, her main source of steadiness, her workplace diversion, her leisure companion, her sentimental vision, and her financier. All in one evening. The tale of her 5 boyfriends' surprise gathering became a myth in our various social groups. She was an outcast. She attempted a few frantic actions. She dispatched me a series of menacing emails, requiring I compensate her for her emotional commitment in our partnership. I had my attorney dispatch her a stop and desist notice that ended that promptly. She attempted to craft a sufferer story online, but the account was too familiar. Everyone knew the facts. The latest I heard, she had to relocate back to her hometown to reside with her parents, entirely humiliated. The magnificent, thrilling life she had erected for herself was exposed as a delicate structure of illusions, and we had simply softly toppled it. A month post-gathering, the 5 of us convened for a drink. It was a strange but amusing night. We were 5 totally varied individuals, but we shared a connection no one else could grasp. Marcus, who had conducted some investigation, told us that Jessica had an extended past of this type of conduct. We weren't the initial, but due to our small gathering, we were nearly definitely the final. As for me, my existence is tranquil. The residence is serene. I didn't pursue vengeance from anger. I did it as a point of ethics. She regarded people like throwaway resources, like entries on a list. I merely arranged a session of all the resources to exchange observations. She wasn't a girlfriend. She was a pyramid fraud. And all I did was convene a session of the backers to notify them that the operation was insolvent.